What are high-performance careers made of, and how can you create one for yourself? Well, I believe the top 10% lean in, make an impact, and leave a footprint, which empowers enduring career growth and in life. And in fact, it's what I call the career life model. So over the course of the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about the 4 fundamentals that are not taught in school, which are required for career success. We're going to learn about the 4 stages every business professional's career goes through and how to navigate them successfully. And we're going to learn a simple career management framework that you can apply each year to get and stay on track. If you implement my suggestions, you'll get to a point where you never have to look for work, ever. You'll be in control. But it does take some conscious intent and a bit of work to manage your career. So I'll start by talking a little bit about my background, my organization. But first I want to talk about my philosophy. That is that we spend too much time working for work, not to work. And after 20 years of being in the recruitment business and having conversations with people when they're at that juncture, where they're about to make a career decision, you start to see patterns. In 20 years, I've literally seen over 1 million resumes. I've interviewed tens of thousands of people. I've placed thousands of people. And when someone is about at that point in their career, this represents a typical career. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, every 4.2 years, we're changing jobs. So if that's the case, and that's the propensity to change jobs, a lot of times you come and you talk to a recruiter. You want to find out what's going out in the market. And so we have this window into, or front row seating into career decision-making mode. And so what I'm about to talk to you today is my observations in those moments in time and distill it down into some meaning. My message is that managing a career doesn't simply happen by doing our jobs. In fact, the skills needed to do your job, in most cases, are different than the skills required to manage your career. And this isn't taught in school. And as I mentioned before, what I'm going to do is spend some time talking about why you need to lean in, make an impact, and create a footprint to ensure enduring career success, what I call the career life model. So the presentation is average to amazing. But what is average anyways? And is there anything wrong with average? And I would certainly suggest that there's nothing wrong with average. Unless you're a superhuman and you can perform at a high level in any area or every area of your life, it comes down to making choices about what's important to you. I know a number of people who are very successful, very well-respected people whose career is not their top priority. They've made a conscious decision that they're going to prioritize other things in their life. At some point, though, in life, career is a major focus. And when it is, what do we need to do? What framework can we rely on to help us move towards those objectives? So we need to choose wisely. And I think we need a framework for high performance, or what I call an HPC. Now, unlike most of you, I'm not the numbers guy. In fact, in high school, me and math didn't get along very well. I was in the half of the class that made the top half possible. And so, when I went to BCIT, I just took statistics. I didn't do exceptionally well in statistics, but my instructor, Charlie Chan, taught me about the bell curve. Now I get to use it in a presentation. It makes me feel really smart. What I've done is I've simply applied the bell curve to career performance. And when I got into this business, one of the things that I wanted to find out was, what do the top 20%, what do the top 10% do differently than the rest? Thus, the presentation, average to amazing. The amazing folks are the ones that are in the top 20%. What do they do differently? Now, that can be a difficult thing to find out, and something that it permeates a lot of what we do is, Pictures Pay for a social media channel. And there's something that I call clickbait career advice. Jump on LinkedIn or wherever it is that you want to go, and you will no doubt find some quote or something that gives you a little tidbit that is supposed to affect your career. And some of these things are things like, you can't plan your career. Well, I believe you can plan your career, and you should plan your career. Perhaps not in a linear fashion, that's a very difficult thing to do. But if you have a reliable framework and you're consciously and intentionally involved in planning, it can be a massively effective tool for us. Another piece of advice is, this is probably what I think is the most dangerous career advice. It's a little bit it's an interesting one. The idea of follow your passion. I can do an entire hour presentation on where passion belongs in your career. But instead of doing that, I'm going to let Mike Rowe, the former host of the TV show Dirty Jobs, did anyone ever watch Dirty Jobs? I'm going to let him explain where passion belongs in your career.
There's a picture of a rainbow and butterflies.
Yeah.
I joked about that back in 2004 with a pig farmer on Dirty Jobs. And he said, listen, the thing about passion is you got to have it, but only a moron would follow it. Bring your passion with you in all things, but never ever follow it.
So if passion's not the answer, where do you start? Any coach who is teaching high performance, whether it's in business, it's in sports, it's in music, take your pick. I believe they should start with mindset. In fact, I believe mindset is the first skill set that we need to master. We all suffer from the human condition. We're all people. We all have challenges in our life. And your career is going to last through those challenges. And so how we think about our work is a major component to successful career planning. Because challenges are guaranteed. People get sick, people get divorced, people pass away. There's all sorts of things that happen to people. It's a reality of the human condition. And change is constant. So if our mindset isn't oriented in the proper way, we can then lose sight of things in the totality of the human condition. It used to be, my father started working for a company when he was 16. He spent the next 40 some odd years working for that organization. He started by sweeping floors. And when he retired, he was the vice president of manufacturing in one organization. It's very rare that that occurs today. Change is constant. It used to be that you got into a good career vehicle and you spent your career working for that organization. And then in the 80s, it became more about climbing the career ladder. Well, today it's more about career lily pads, where you leap from one lily pad to this lily pad, over to here, forwards, backwards. And so the skills required to move through your career and pick up the requisite knowledge and skills has changed. When we're talking about mindset, another critical component is how you think about your work. Do you think about your work as a job, or do you think of your work as a career? And a career mindset to building an enduring career is critical. Thinking in the long term about what the outcome is that you're trying to accomplish. Let's listen to Chris Rock as to what he has to say about careers versus jobs.
Because there ain't enough time when you got a career. When you got a job, there's too much time.
So time is a critical component. If you spend most of your days thinking about how much time is left in the day, there's a good chance it's a job. If, however, more often than not, you're asking yourself, geez, it's already 3 o'clock, how'd that happen? There's a good chance it's a career. We're now going to move to the real meat of my presentation, which is, how do you create amazing anyways? We're going to talk about a high-performance career, or what I say is amazing. So to do this, I'd like to start by creating a mental image of what amazing looks like, and I think an excellent symbol of amazing is the majestic oak tree. That's the theme for my presentation. Where do oak trees come from? Well, acorns, of course, right? What I'm about to share is that acorns don't become oak trees just by being acorns. They require the right soil, they require the right nutrients, and ongoing feeding and attention. If you starve an acorn for any one of those things, it won't grow. And it's just the same with our careers. So with this in mind, let's delve in. There are three key elements, or three key ingredients to an amazing career. Career skills, time, and attention. Skills, time, and attention. And I'll just hit pause here really quickly as well. All of this information that's in my presentation is online and available for you at horizonrecruits.com/average to amazing. You can download a copy of this presentation. For the folks who are at the back that can't see it pretty well, and a bunch of exercises that I'm going to be talking about as well. But skills, time, and attention. These are the three ingredients for an amazing career. So skills, these are the nutrients that we feed our careers with over the entire duration of our career. And they're fundamental to success. I'm a huge fan of understanding what the fundamentals are, because I don't believe that mastery can be achieved in anything unless you understand what the fundamentals are. And they're what I've dubbed the 4 C's of career management. And those C's are capability, communication, community, and consistency. So let's take a closer look at each one of those. Capability is what you can be the best at. Remember the bell curve. What can you be the best at? This is your main economic engine. It's your core area of expertise. Capability, in my mind, and expertise are synonymous. Are experts born or are they developed? Well, certainly talent plays a factor in that, but I would suggest that experts are developed. They're not born. It takes practice, intentional practice, to become an expert. Therefore, in my mind, it becomes a choice. Are you willing to put the work and dedication into becoming an expert in your chosen field? I frequently said that what you do isn't nearly as important as your ability to do what you do, your level of expertise. One of my favorite stories about developing expertise are these 2 young guys out of the UK, Sam Priestley and Ben Larcombe. And they had a project that was called Expert in a Year. Has anyone heard of this? You can go online and watch the video. It's quite interesting. Sam is a professional table tennis coach, and his buddy Ben is a relatively unathletic individual who had never played table tennis, but they were good friends. And so Sam challenged Ben to see if he could become an expert in table tennis in 365 days. And so they made a commitment to each other to practice table tennis every single day for the next year. And this video shows a couple seconds from every day for 365 days, and it goes from Sam learning how to hold the paddle, to learning how to serve, return the ball. They do dryland training, he's running through tires and lifting weights. Then eventually he starts to enter competitions, and he gets creamed. Then he starts to place in these competitions, and then he starts to win competitions. And after 365 days, Ben failed. He was not in the top 250 ranked players in the UK. He was, however, in the top 350. I would suggest that if Ben walked in this room right now, he would probably cream every single one of us in a game of table tennis. He certainly is in the top 20%. He's an expert. He's highly capable at what he does. Fundamental number 1 is capability. It's a choice, and it comes down to us whether or not we're willing to put the effort in to become an expert at what we do. Capability, what you can be the best at. Fundamental number 2 is communication. Communication is the ability, or is the influence that you have on others. Let me just go back for a second. The strategy for capability is to lean into what you do. Lean into your subject matter, lean into learning, lean into creating relationships with people that are mentors that can teach you more. Strategy for capability is to lean in. Communication. There's 2 pieces to communication. 2 major buckets. The first is your ability to present information with the spoken word and with the written word. Your ability to present to other people either one-on-one or in a boardroom or in a larger setting, in a public setting like this, is probably one of the greatest career assets that you could ever acquire. It's something that provides a lot of trepidation for folks, but if you can develop that capability by putting yourself out there and going through the discomfort of learning to present effectively, it will do so much for your career. The second piece of presentation is your ability to write. Writing blog posts, getting involved with your trade association like this, and the emails that you put together, the subject lines that you put in them, taking note of the white space that you use, bullet points. These types of things have an impact on your ability to influence people. I've been in a sales profession my entire career. I'm now in a situation where I get a lot of sales calls. And the ones that I pay attention to, if it starts with an email, I pay attention to how that email is put together. And when someone calls me, I listen to the tonality of their voice and whether or not they know what they're talking about. So your ability to present verbally and written have a huge impact on your overall ability to communicate. And then the second bucket is your brand, your online brand. What's there or what's not there tells a story. And that's something that every piece of content that you create becomes a career asset that you can use over and over and over again. So if you're focused on creating content that's going to help other people in their career, especially if you're simultaneously building your expertise, you can see the flywheel start to go in terms of having career value. So fundamental 2 is communication. Fundamental 3 is community. These are the relationships that you create and nurture. Relationships don't happen all on their own. They require nurturing. It is not, in my opinion, it's not enough to come to a conference, grab a business card, and connect with somebody on LinkedIn. That does not a relationship make. People have relationships with people, and you can't accomplish that just online. In the recruitment business, and this, I don't know, this might put me out of business, but in the recruitment business, we take our database and our CRM very, very seriously. Because I can't remember the last time I talked to everybody. But if you set up a CRM, it helps you to do that. And there's a number of free CRM packages out there that you can use. So if it's me, I'd be taking those business cards and putting those names and email addresses into my CRM and then reaching out to people on a regular basis. If you're creating content and you're managing relationships, you start to build a sense of goodwill. And you start to build a bit of a following, and this has enormous career value. So when I was a kid, my dad built me what I thought was the world's largest sandbox. And as an adult, I went back to the house and I saw where I used to play, and it was a tiny little plot. But when I was a kid, it was huge. And it got me thinking about my goodwill. So I use this term, what's the size of your goodwill sandbox? If you think that you have a massive amount of goodwill, and as a professional accountant, you understand goodwill truly is an asset. It got me thinking, does my goodwill extend just to the people that I work with every day? Or are there other folks in my organization, other departments, that have an impression, a positive impression of me? What about other organizations in my industry? What about across the province? Or other provinces or across the country? And in some cases, in the most profound examples, people have goodwill that extends into other countries and in other industries. Think of the value of that when you want to get something done. Your ability to pick up the phone or send an email and set the wheels in motion for something that you're trying to accomplish. And that's accomplished through goodwill. The way that we treat people and our follow-through on what we say is critical. And it's a part of the community that we build. Let's listen to what Warren Buffett has to say about this very idea.
You're going to get the best out of people if they feel good about you. And it's just so easy, but you've got to develop the habits early, because you can't say I'm going to suddenly become a terribly attractive person when I'm 60. It just doesn't work that way. So pick up the right habits now. And I will guarantee you, if you actually just write down those qualities and think about it, you will find you can have every one of the attractive qualities, get rid of the ones that are negative, and your life will be different.
What have we got so far? We've got capability, communication, community, and fundamental number 4 is consistency. This is how you ensure success. It's simply to do those 3 things consistently throughout the duration of your career. We need to have all 4 of these things at all times, perhaps in various concentrations or various amounts, but all 4 of these things need to exist, that's why they're fundamental, throughout the duration of your career. And so our mindset and our mental strength are important, and how we take care of ourselves. Our sleep, our health, our diet, these are all components of being a human. It's not just one thing focused on a career. So how do you spend your time? It's a question that I think is an important one to ponder as it relates to your career. So we've covered off the skills which are the nutrients for career performance. Now we're going to take a look at time. And time is the soil that the acorn grows from. I believe there's 4 phases to every career: plant, root, grow, and harvest. Typically between our early 20s and early 30s is when we're planting, when we're becoming planted. Our goal here is to find fertile soil, whether it's an organization or an industry or a specific function in that organization. And this is a time when risks are the lowest. So you should experiment. If anyone is in this phase right now, experimenting and taking risks, this is the time to do it. It's a little bit different when you're in your mid-50s and you want to pursue a different path. There's a lot more that could be riding on the line. The other piece of advice that I give people in this stage is that understand all options are messy. There is no perfect career choice. There is no perfect situation where you're not going to encounter something you don't like about what you do. Maybe it's just a day, or you go through a tough patch. Every option is messy. So we need to balance emotion with practicality, and that's why if we follow our passion, it can be a very risky endeavor. We're also very susceptible to bad advice at this stage. Think about folks in the consulting profession. A lot of people come out of university, they get involved in a firm, and there's this groupthink that starts to occur. And being able to break away from that and chart your own path and take risks that mean something to you, it takes a bit of an inner strength to be able to do that in some cases. So the strategic area of focus here is let's learn as much as we can about where we're going to plant ourselves in this phase. The next phase is in our early 30s to our early 40s, which is where we root. And really what we want to do here is find our sweet spot. And this is where we need to ensure balanced nutrition. Nutrition being the 4 fundamentals. We need to focus on a particular pathway and become one of the best. This is where capability is critical. And we need to invest in ourselves. And become very good at what we do. Becoming effective by building efficiencies so that we can solidify our position within our career. And so the focus here is to make as much impact as you can. Bringing us to a phase in our career where growth is the main impetus. And this is where we want to prove leadership capability. An interesting fact about oak trees. They live to about 200 years old. And they produce acorns every other year. And in a typical year, an oak tree will drop about 10,000 acorns. So over the life of an oak tree, it'll produce about 1 million acorns. How many acorns does it take to make an oak tree? Just 1. I believe that you have more than 1 acorn in your career. And it's this phase that we can start to look at supplemental capability and branch out and grow and expand. If you try and do too much too early, what happens? We water our performance down. That's why we need to lean in before we make an impact so that we can create a footprint to ensure success. The final phase is harvest. And this is towards the end of our career between our 50s and 60s, although Careers are getting longer, people are working longer, the shape of the workforce is changing dramatically. The first time in history where we've had 4 and 5 generations in the workforce, where you've got grandfather working next to grandson. And in this phase, we really want to make sure that we're maximizing our returns and reaping the rewards of all the work that we put in. Staying relevant is critical. And we really want to focus on earning as much as we can in this phase. So we've talked about the career skills, we've talked about time. Now what do we need to do with that? That's knowledge. Skills and time and how those work together, that's knowledge. What do we need to do? And this is the attention that we give our career. If you plant the acorn and you starve of the nutrients that it needs, it still won't grow, or it'll be stunted. In order to do the right things, we need to get prepared. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Earl Nightingale, and he says, "Luck is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity." Here's the part that I like. Opportunity is there all the time. So all one needs to do is get prepared. Now, I'll remind you what I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go through a lot of information on these next slides. Everything that I'm going to talk about is, I'm just going to get out of here for a second and show you. If you go to Horizon Recruit, Average to Amazing, there's a web page dedicated to the presentation. There's a copy of the slides, there's an overview of the program, and then there's exercises that you can download and go through that cover off this entire program. So just making note of that. Let me jump back into the presentation here. Bear with me. Okay. The first phase that we go through, well, there's 4. There's discover, plan, do, and adjust. In the discovery phase, it's all about know thyself, as they say. And this is something that you would start upon, or you would complete upon the start of this program, or after major life events. And there's 3 things that you'll go through here. One is the career runway. You look at how you're spending your time. And there's a personal assessment. It's a psychometric assessment. Don't let that word scare you. It scared me when I first heard it. In fact, it has the word psycho right in it. So there's 3 things that we're going to go through here. The career runway. Here's basically what the career runway is. Take your current age and subtract it from 65. That's how many more years you have left, likely, in your career. One of the big misconceptions about careers is how much time you really have. And in a lot of cases, you have more time than you think you do. I'm 43, and I'm right at the halfway mark of my career if I'm going to be working the typical 40-ish year career. I've still got 20 years of work to put in, and I am super excited about it. There's lots of opportunity in those 20 years. And so the mindset about what it is that we're bringing with us in this endeavor is important. Taking a look at your time and how you actually are currently spending your time and accounting for that. And this is where those choices come to fro. If you've got a number of things going on in your life that aren't going to allow you to spend time in another area of your life, that's insanity. You can't produce both of those things unless you're going to stop sleeping or you're going to give up your relationships, etc., etc. You got to keep it in context. Psychometric assessment is, so this is something that we're offering for free. They're about $250 to go through a true psychometric assessment. There's a link to one that you can put a code into, and it'll go through, and it'll tell you what your tendencies are. It'll tell you what your preferences are. It's not going to say this is right or that's wrong. It'll tell you how you prefer to work. So I'd encourage you to go through this discovery process at the beginning of this program. Next is to plan. Once we're aware of where we're currently at, how do we get ourselves ready to go where we want to go? And so I would ask you, or I would suggest that you go through the career life plan. And it talks about questions about how to lean in, how to make an impact, create a footprint, and ensure that you endure through your career. And there's 16 key questions in each of those different areas that you sit and you ponder and you think about how they impact you. Then you go through a career situation review, which is weighting what's important to you at this point in time. Because again, things change through the course of life. And then finally, again, you go and look at how you should be spending your time. We took a look at how we are spending our time. How should we be spending our time to get us to where we want to go in our career? Discovery, plan, and then do. There's not much I can do for you here. This is entirely up to you. This is something that you complete daily. This is the attitude that you show up to work with. Whether you're on time, whether you're engaged, whether you're prepared for that day. And this is your ability to execute. This is your ability to perform and the results that you achieve. If you can't do that, none of this other stuff matters. And then finally, make adjustments. In the military, they have something called an AAR, or an after-action review. And the after-action review is a very simple exercise, but the value is extremely high. And you ask yourself 4 questions. What was supposed to happen? What actually happened? Why was there a difference? And what can I learn from that? And when you look at that on a quarterly basis, you get in this habit of becoming more aware and intentional about the actions that you take. Now, there's a lot there that I just covered off. And I don't know if you're going to remember all 3 of those things as you walk out of here. Time, skills, time, and attention. What I've tried to do is put all of this on a bumper sticker for you. The Career Life Framework. This is the entire presentation. You've got the 4 fundamental skills of capability, communication, community, and consistency. The 4 phases that every career goes through, and the career life model. Lean in, make an impact, create a footprint for enduring career success. That's the attention that we give our careers. So the one question you can ask yourself to ensure your career is growing year over year is, am I leaning in, making an impact, and creating a footprint to ensure my success? It takes a little bit of work to position yourself for enduring career success, but now you have the skills, knowledge, and tools to do so. I'd also suggest that you head on over to the Average to Amazing webpage and keep an eye on it, as I'll be uploading more exercises and resources in the coming weeks and months. And carve some time out to intentionally plan for your career. You'll be glad you did. Good luck, and thank you very much.